Hello everybody and welcome to Not So Hollywood Cinema, the show in which I talk about movies and wonder why I have no friends. I'm your host, ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, the internet's loneliest D-list personality, and to be quite honest with you, I wasn't even planning on making a video today, but I stumbled upon something that pissed me off so much that I just had to talk about it and share it with you guys. And to be quite honest with you, I'm fueled by the power of rage, so let's get into it. Now, I don't need to go into the whole backlash behind the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters, as that's been pretty well documented at this point. I have never seen so much hatred for a movie since last year's Fantastic Four, and we all know how that turned out. But after months of screaming back and forth, finally we will get to know if this movie is any good or not, because the review embargo for Ghostbusters lifts tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, and critics will finally weigh in on whether this new installment of Ghostbusters is any good or not. But one review discussing the movie's quality has already been leaked, and that was made by the fine folks at WrecklessEating. Now, if you don't know who WrecklessEating is, they're a food channel here on YouTube, and they normally do extreme eating challenges, but from time to time they will post movie reviews under mainframe matinees, which is done in the style of Cinema Snob's midnight screenings, and Matt, who runs the WrecklessEating channel, posted his review of Ghostbusters. Now, to be clear here, WrecklessEating is not a professional critic, so he was not beholden to honoring any sort of embargo, so he published the review this morning about Ghostbusters, and to make a long story short, he hated it. Or, to be more technically accurate, he tore the movie apart for being a shitty movie. And to say that it rustled a few jimmies would be the understatement of the year. Some of his main criticisms were the fact that it had a man-hating agenda, the fact, and spoiler alert, the four main Ghostbusters kill the oversized Ghostbusters logo by shooting their proton packs at its dick. The fact that every male in the movie is either portrayed as an idiot or an asshole. The fact that it's just bogged down by this dumb slapstick that's just not funny. It's essentially a collection of rejected Saturday Night Live skits more so than it is a Ghostbusters film, and the fact that the CGI is the equivalent of lighting a soiled diaper on fire and throwing it at somebody's face. Okay, I made the last part up, but you know what I mean. And whose jimmies did this film rustle am I talking about? Well, of course I'm talking about NeoGAF.com. Now, full disclosure, I am a member of NeoGAF. I go by the Unhero Rises, and if anybody has an account on NeoGAF, just feel free to send me a line at any time. They were not happy about WrecklessEating's review of the film. In fact, they took it really personally. Now, I also want to make it abundantly clear that not everybody on NeoGAF thinks like this. There are some really cool and awesome people on the site, and this side that I'm going to be talking about is a very small vocal minority of what NeoGAF is all about. So, yeah, this social progressive side of NeoGAF, I greatly dislike, and to be quite honest with you, I find them to be intolerable asshats, because if you have any sort, and I mean any sort of dissenting opinion that doesn't toe the line of a narrative, that doesn't fit in with their whole hive mind mentality, you're either going to be called sexist and misogynistic or outright banned. Now, if you don't believe me, let's take a look at how they responded to WrecklessEating's review of Ghostbusters. It stars, names 3 people, and that one other person. That review is full of cringe. Why was this thread made so early? There are no reviews out, just some flop in a car bitching about Furiosa or something.
Guy is clearly an MRA, but people will give credence to him because he's shitting on a film they don't like. It's pathetic.
If you didn't catch that, one of the commenters here, my good sir here, called WrecklessEating an MRA because he expressed a dissenting opinion that he didn't like. Because in his opinion, he said that Ghostbusters was a terrible film. I'm not kidding. If this is seriously what people are mad about, then we don't have any real problems in North America, because that is pretty much the very definition of first world problems. I mean, seriously? Really? And if you literally, if you go through the entire thread, you'll see tons of comments like this. And by the way, if you don't know what MRA stands for, it stands for Men's Rights Activist. It's essentially the male version of a feminist. Not liking new Ghostbusters equals being MRA. Yeah, we are already there, and the movie hasn't come out yet. Ruh-roh! Oh my god! We got our first man-child ITT! Ghostbusters 2016 is now the gold standard upon which progressive standards are based. If you hate it, you might as well subscribe to the red pill.
LOL, clearly an MRA. You guys are too much. Oh, Jesus, watch his review. The dude goes on about a man-bashing agenda. Anyone who legit thinks like that has some MRA logic thinking in them. That is some paranoid bullshit if I've ever saw it.
Like, and really, this just goes on and on and on. And this whole man-bashing agenda that he's referring to, Reckless Eating discussed the fact that every male in the movie is portrayed as either an idiot or an asshole. And, of course, again, spoiler alert, when the 4 Ghostbusters fight against the oversized Ghostbusters logo, they shoot it with their proton packs, they shoot at its dick. I'm not kidding. That's literally how the movie ends. Literally. And so he was discussing it. But apparently he's an MRA for pointing that out. Because apparently, you know, discussing what's in a movie and reviewing a movie is apparently you're being an MRA. Because that's actually in the movie. He's discussing what's in the movie, and when you're reviewing a movie, you're supposed to review every aspect of it. Because that's what a review is. So, if man bashing is in the movie, if the portrayal of men is in the movie, then he has to point that out. That's what a review does. And just because he points that out and doesn't like that aspect does not make him an MRA. That's just utterly fucking ridiculous. It's moronic, if anything, if you really, really, really think about it. I mean, like this guy here. What's the agenda from having someone getting blasted in the dick? Yeah, so you don't think it's weird at all that this food channel has been so offended by a film that has been dragged to the pits by the internet for starring women that they decided to do a movie review?
Yeah, I'm sure this junk food connoisseur goes all film critic and gets offended when he sees something sexist against women in his film as well.
I don't see an agenda anywhere. I mean, well, yeah, there are definitely a few comments that actually have some common sense. Majority of it is just so fucking stupid and just utterly ridiculous that it honestly just, it's laughable, really. It's just utterly laughable. Really, really laughable. Seriously. Like, and I think this comment here, I think really, really, I think emphasizes the stupidity of this specific thread.
Don't you think you're being a bit paranoid? The dude reviewing it is literally framing the film as an attack on men. Don't you think that's maybe going too far? That maybe there is a pro-man bent to the tone of the review, like he complains about the fact that the Ghostbusters are women because it doesn't make sense or whatever. Does that complaint make any sense to you, honestly? I mean, really think about the kind of person who is deeply concerned with gender wars. Also, think about the people behind this film. Assess how likely it is that their goal was to maliciously attack the male gender with this movie. Does that seem remotely likely to you? I was probably being too inflammatory. I know a lot of guys in here are sensitive and overly defensive. There's even some in this thread that are inferring my criticism of this specific reviewer applies to literally everyone who doesn't like the film, but please just look at what he's saying and calmly assess it for yourself. Like, I mean, look, I could go on for hours and hours about how terrible this thread is, and just the numerous amounts of MRA comments, and of course this one. First reviewer being an MRA perfectly sets the tone for this thread. 2016 minus 1984 equals 32 plus excess chromosomes equals 52 Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Again, I could probably go well over 20 minutes discussing all the MRA comments, but I think I've made my point. So let's just get into what I personally think about this. The social progressive side of NeoGAF is not only a walking contradiction, but it's also the epitome of hypocrisy. I just find it so funny that they lambast the so-called haters of Ghostbusters, stating that they're attacking the movie because it has a woman in it. And I also find it funny that they label Gamergate as a misogynistic hate movement solely out to destroy women, when here they are doing the exact same shit that they chastise other people for doing. They are deliberately attacking somebody because they expressed a dissenting opinion that they didn't like, that they didn't agree with. And this perfectly just goes to show the hive mind mentality that exists on the social progressive side of NeoGAF. Because if you dare to have any sort of differing opinion that doesn't fit in with their narrative, that doesn't fit in with the whole hive mind mentality, you're going to be attacked. And what I've just showcased perfectly emphasizes that. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And the fact that people are getting mad about this really just goes to show that we have it good in North America. Because if that isn't the very definition of first world problems, then I don't know what is. But then again, I totally forget we live in this PC culture where it's totally wrong to have any sort of differing opinion. You gotta fit in with a specific narrative. You have to agree with it no matter what. I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. This is just stupid. The fact that these people would literally attack somebody, and then that's what it is. They're literally attacking the guy simply because he reviewed a movie, gave his opinion, and tore it apart for being a shitty movie is ridiculous. What it seems like to me is that they want people to suppress their opinions and not come out and say that the movie is shit if they feel like it, in order to essentially just pander to women because the movie happens to star women in it. Let me tell you something, okay? Just because the movie so happens to have women in it does not make them exempt from criticism. If this movie had the exact same premise just with men in it, they wouldn't be exempt from criticism either, and I would be criticizing it all the same, because when it comes to film, I don't give a shit about gender. I don't. I just want to see a good film, regardless of who headlines it. Gender is completely irrelevant to me. And I want to like this movie, you guys. I really do. I want this, at the very least, to be okay, if not decent. But the blatant attacks against people expressing their own opinions honestly just make me not want to like the movie. It really doesn't. You know? And calling somebody out for being an MRA because they bashed a movie that you so desperately want to be good is utterly childish and moronic, and in my opinion, you are no better than the people you consistently criticize, the so-called haters that attack Ghostbusters just because it has women in it. And to be fair, are some people out there attacking this movie because it solely has women in it? Yes, which I'll admit is pretty fucking dumb, but these people seem to conveniently forget that a vast majority of the detractors are also women. There are plenty of women out there that don't like how this reboot is turning out. That don't like Ghostbusters. People like Comic Book Girl 19. But these people seem to conveniently forget that, which in my opinion is just as sexist. They're trying to paint, oh, it's only males that are hating this movie. It's only misogynistic man-babies that hate this movie. When in all actuality, just as many females hate it as males. You know? So, wouldn't you agree that's sexist in of itself? And when the movie relies on these old tired stereotypes like the smart brainy one, the tough I don't give a shit one, the loud obnoxious black woman, and the fat woman who constantly falls down, how the hell is that progressive? How is that advancing female characters farther in film? I think it's sending it back 10 to 20 years. I mean, just look at Rey from Star Wars The Force Awakens. Look at Judy Hopps from Zootopia. Look at Joy from Inside Out. What do those three have in common? They are strong female characters. They have strengths. They have weaknesses. They have struggles, is what I'm trying to say here. They have flaws. And on top of that, they're well-written, likable, endearing characters. So when they fall on hard times, you feel sorry for them. You want to see them succeed. You want them to overcome their challenges and obstacles. And best of all, they don't rely on stereotypes. They're not pandering. And I'm sorry, that's what this new movie looks like. It's fucking pandering. It looks like a cynical cash grab that wasn't made for the benefit of women. It wasn't made because they had a good idea. It was literally just made so they could try to make some money, because aside from Spider-Man and James Bond, Sony doesn't really have any bankable tentpole franchises right now. And literally, that's the only reason they made this movie, was purely because of the fact of money. But oh, how dare anybody express their honest opinion? Because if you review a movie and say that it's shit, you're an MRA. You're a sexist, misogynistic asshole. Seriously, screw this type of behavior. It's bullshit. And anybody, literally anybody that has this type of mentality should be ashamed of themselves, because that's not what it's about. And seriously, playing the whole sexism and misogyny card to shut out legitimate, honest criticism makes about as much sense as Fox making another Fantastic Four movie. You don't like the fact, NeoGAF, the social progressive side of NeoGAF, that people have an opinion about Ghostbusters and they say it's not a good movie? Get over it. Just get over it. Grow up and shut the fuck up. Listen, I don't care if you go and see this movie and like it and are able to find some enjoyment out of it. I think that's awesome, and people should be allowed to have differing opinions, because differing opinions make this world so awesome. And I don't mind when people disagree with reviewers. It actually makes the discussion a whole hell of a lot better. But attacking someone and accusing them of being an MRA simply because they don't toe a certain narrative, simply because they express their honest opinion on a movie of all things, is just utterly ridiculous to me. It's utterly ridiculous, and the fact that they literally believe this shit it boggles my mind. And honestly, stuff like this makes me lose faith in humanity. It really does. And if anything, look, I'm not an optimist. I'm an optimistic person. I'm usually not a vindictive person. But honestly, I want this movie to bomb. If only just to spite these sexist assholes. And yes, I'm calling the social progressive side of NeoGAF sexist assholes, because it's funny, they're calling out so-called misogynistic man-babies for being sexist, while at the same time labeling all the haters of the Ghostbusters movie, this Ghostbusters reboot, as misogynistic man-babies, as males, when there's a vast majority of detractors that are female. And isn't that just as sexist? Isn't that the same thing that you're decrying everybody else for doing? But then again, these are the same people that banned Boogie 2988 for simply supporting Gamergate. And these are the same people whose owner, Tyler Mulcahy, sexually harassed a woman in Italy. So when it comes to logic and double standards, these guys are totally A-class. They're totally not hypocritical at all. But you know what? That's all I gotta say. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, signing out. Deuces. Stay frosty and keep it weird. Have a nice, wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.